Namaskaram. I am thrilled to have with me historian, secretary of the Music Academy, you could say the voice of Chennai,
Oh God, thank you, Krishna.
V. Sriram,
Thanks a lot, thank
who
you.
is his work in music and in understanding the various threads that make the city, and most importantly, share this so freely with a larger public
Thank
is,
you.
I think, quite something. So, thank you very much for joining me in this conversation.
Thanks for inviting me for this.
We are seated here at the Music Academy Library. Honestly, if you think of the general public, I don't think they even know this place exists.
Yeah,
Right?
I would agree with you.
Yeah. So they would come, kacheri kepanga, enjoy the
And a
canteen,
large-
of course, enjoy the canteen and go back. So, I mean, my memory of this library, of course, is very different from how it looks today in, say the early 90s from when I have visited this place. I want you to talk about your first visits here. Why did you come here? Please.
So I owe my introduction to the Academy Library to Sangeeta Kalanidhi Sanjay Subramaniam. Without him, I would have probably never even taken to music writing. And when Sangeetam.com, the website of that time, was launched, Sanjay said, you have to write very regularly on music. And he said, in his usual way, he said, Urna Music Academy Library, poitu varalam. So he brought me here, and it was his introduction that brought me to Tachur Singaracharlu's books,
Okay.
and later Sangeeta Sampradaya Pradarshini and so many. So that is how I started coming here. The big attraction was always the bound volumes of the journals and the souvenirs.
Of course.
I mean, I still think they are the biggest attraction.
I think even we just like to flip it and look at the song list, if not anything else, right?
And the ads.
Ads, of course.
I just, even when I write a corporate biography, I always come to the Academy Library to see whether they released advertisements in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
And invariably, there are ads here which they don't have in their own collection.
Wow.
For instance, when I wrote the Rani Madras book, I found here that Rani Madras, apart from selling automotive, at that time chassis and body and all that, they were also selling typewriters. There's an ad
really?
here. And when I took it back, they said, we don't even have any records of this. This is the only ad that we have. So it was in the Academy Library. It's a phenomenal place.
It's fascinating also. I mean, you brought to fore a very important point. We think of say the Music Academy Library, and we think of only music. Like, you go there and there'll be some manuscript or there'll be some notations. But the fact is that history is not written in separate streams, right? In a journal or in a souvenir, you find something about an area of work that you don't think is connected.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about that because that's fascinating, because we don't think that way. Why should I go to the Music Academy? Please talk about that.
So, for instance, if you look at some of the old printing presses of Madras, so, the Jnana Suryodaya press, which is the first book of Carnatic music, Sangeeta Sarvasa Sara Sangrahamu. So, you realize that a press like that existed only when you read that particular book. You look at the back page and in my view, if you come to Music Academy Library, you can have a full listing of all the printing presses that existed in the city between the 1850s to the 1970s. So, if there is, for instance, a print scholar, somebody who is researching printing technology, he can come here, he'll find every kind of letterpress, every kind of font, every kind of visual, every kind of page sizes, Dowden Press, Diocesan Press, Music Academy and Diocesan Press, Addison's Press, all kinds of presses. The Veperi Christian Literature Society Press, every press has been used by the Tyagaraja Aradhana. Of course, they don't have it here, but some of the pamphlets were printed at the Veperi Christian Literary Society Press, Diocesan Press. So it depends on who gave them a contract, who paid the money, and they were utilized.
I know. So, I mean, you touched upon the souvenir. Tell me about your most fascinating song list or names that you encountered in the early souvenirs.
Okay, in my view, my favorite souvenir even today is the 1939 to 42 souvenirs, because that is when you are able to trace the rise of Sangeeta Kalanidhi, M.S. Subbulakshmi.
Wow.
And so in 37, 38, you find that she is there as one of the many artists.
Okay.
And you find that there is a group photograph in our collection where she's seated in one corner. Then in 40, 41, suddenly you find that her photograph has appeared on the cover of the Music Academy souvenir.
Cover of the souvenir?
Yes. So it's an advertisement for Shakuntala,
Shakuntala, okay.
and it is there right on the cover. And then when you pick up the Hindu, the news clipping which we have over here, you find that there was a riot at Senate House when her concert happened. It was cancelled. Academy issued an apology the next day saying that we are sorry, we did not make sufficient arrangements for the
Crowds that would come.
and next time we'll be more careful. So the rise of this lady
Wow.
from being a performing
One of
artist
the many.
to a star.
Absolutely.
And then the next year, I think there is a
I'm
GK.
going to pause you. Has there ever been any other musician on the cover of a souvenir? Ever?
That I am no. I can say no.
Wow.
I can say
That's a statement by
authoritatively.
itself.
I can say no. And there is a GK Whale ad where she is occupying 3/4 of the page, and then all the others are in a set of roundels below. Amazing.
Wow, amazing, right? So, I mean, also you find so many names. You know, I think most of us are attracted towards, shall I say, the popular names. And those like appear, right? I mean, the greats, we know the names. But when you look at the souvenir, especially among women, in the early days, there are so many names that we wonder who is this person.
Exactly.
Abdul question are there. Women were playing mridangam.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are all very fascinating nuggets of history of who participated in the making of this music. And, you know, and they were regulars. It was not like they were like flash in the pan who came one year, right? So, I think those are also very important things.
For instance, it was only recently that I was looking at it. There is, I think, sometime in the 70s, there is the Academy souvenir features a Muslim violinist. 2 years. He's from Kerala, very clearly you can make out. And he has accompanied, I don't remember who, but I'm sure we'll be able to find it. Similarly, Chembai, in the 1940s, in 1949, in Tamil Isai Sangam, he's got a Kanjira artist called Thiraviyam, who has accompanied him. Beautiful. So we all know about Chembai and his contribution in building Yesudas's career.
Exactly.
But in 49, Chembai has got a Kanjira artist called Thiraviyam.
Wow.
So these are all little lessons that we keep putting away in our mind, looking at all the the stuff.
So beautiful because we learn so much about these people also as individuals, and many things are done without being said in a very quiet way, and this goes on, and then we frame our own stories out of it, I guess, in some manner.
Absolutely.
So after you coming back, when you started adorning the role of the historian, so what are the interesting things that you came here for? I want to talk about the interesting photographs you've seen or even the manuscripts that you found. Just talk about that.
See, for instance, the Academy photograph collection, as you know, begins from 1927, a year before the Academy was founded the Congress,
at the Congress
sessions.
So
we have one photograph.
28, 29,
27 December. So we have the first session
for
photograph.
the first session.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's outside University Senate House. You can make out from the background. And you've got this set of people seated. So that's really our first photograph. Then if you go to our office room, now we've blown up 5 photographs which we believe tells the story of the growth of the Music Academy. So the first is this one, 27. And then we have got the first conference in 1930, proper organized conference of the Music Academy, happened in a pandal outside behind Ripon building. So that is there. And then you have got the year when the Kalanidhi was first created. So this year you're going to be adorned with it. But then, when Dwaram became the president of the conference, he was, after all, the first Kalanidhi.
Yeah.
So that is there. Thereafter, the Jawaharlal Nehru laying the foundation stone for the building.
Main building.
And finally, Jayachamraj Odeyar declaring it open. And then the audience on opening night on that day.
Yes.
So these 6 photographs are on the wall in the committee room. And we believe that tells the story of the Academy in a series of black and white pictures. And like that, we've got a collection of more than 5,000 photographs here. Most of them labeled. And most of them we've even identified the individuals who are present. So sometimes we get requests from random family members saying, my grandfather was a secretary here, do you have a photograph? And then we give it to them and they're very thrilled.
Wow.
That, somewhere there is somebody who's keeping track of it. So photographs have been one very important thing. Then you are aware of the Sambamurthy collection of newspaper.
Absolutely.
And I think you've seen it when it was in its physical form itself.
Yes.
Then it was just shoved away somewhere and then accidentally we chanced upon it once again. Now we've digitized the whole thing from 1924 till after Samamurthy, Academy has continued keeping newspaper clippings till mid-1980s or so. So we've digitized that entire lot. We preserved the originals in acid-proof paper. so the newspaper doesn't deteriorate any further. But now scholars can only view the digital.
Excellent.
And that's kept in an air-conditioned room. The
So it's preserved.
preserved. That's that. But the most recent was finding an entire set of Oriental music in European notation in
Yes,
original.
I heard about this.
In a
yes.
cardboard box in the loft of the Music Academy. And then we were thrilled when we discovered it, and after that Aishwarya Shankar has made use of it. Similarly, we have had some other findings as well. Of late, the Dwaram collection has come to us, and we've discovered that our souvenir collection goes back by 3 years earlier than what we thought.
When did you think it began?
35. The official history of the Music Academy says our souvenir begins in 1935.
It needs to be changed now.
Now we have to change it and say, no,
So
it
it's
began
30,
in
is it?
30. So we've got things like that. And again, during Mr. Vasu's time as president, they acquired the entire library of Embar Vijay Raghavacharya.
Okay.
So the complete Harikatha Nirupanams of Embar are available here. And they are all kept in a cupboard that Embar used himself. Same cupboard is still housing the collection. And last year we had this young girl called Kritika Bharadwaj who specializes in Harikatha.
Okay.
So she came, she began reading the Nirupanams, and she did a presentation last year at the Academy annual conference about the manuscript collection of Embar Vijay Raghavacharya. So for Harikatha, if anybody needs anything, they are most welcome to come here and
absolutely.
they can start using it. So this is the kind of wealth that we have here with us.
Along with what you've received, what you've had, and of course souvenirs, there's the journals. And not enough is spoken about journals, because I think their contribution to musicology, to musical thought, is quite tremendous. You could pick up any old journal and look at an article, and you find something that you've not seen before, or an opinion that you're like, oh, somebody thought in this way. So talk us through the journals. When did they begin?
So the first journal is from the 1930 conference. The
Same 30
editorial
conference.
says ourselves.
Okay.
And that's how you can't get more arrogant. Ourselves.
So that began then.
So that's how it starts. And then it talks about, what is the philosophy of the journal. And initially, Sangeeta Kalanidhi T.V. Subbarao, then Dr. V. Raghavan, and then T.S. Parthasarathy, Sangeeta Kalacharya, T.S. Parthasarathy. So that's how the journal has had its journey. So in the journal, you find, for instance, this entire discussion on Raga Lakshanas.
Yes, absolutely.
You find musicians, and because they were using the stenographers of the Madras Legislative Assembly for documenting.
Oh, they were documenting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were taking it down verbatim. And so you can make out that they have not left a single nuance unwritten when they were documenting the reports. So they were taking it down in shorthand,
yes,
probably.
Of course. Probably.
And then they were transcribing the whole thing. So you even find laughter.
Yeah,
in brackets.
yes, I know.
And it's exactly like Hansard.
The laughter tells you a lot.
Yeah. It's exactly like Hansard in the House of Commons.
Exactly.
Or the Legislative Assembly debates over here. So that is the quality of reporting that we have. And you also find scholars coming from their respective schools. So there is a Tyagaraja school, there is a Dikshita school, and never the twain.
And then there are the lawyers.
Yeah, of course. They know a little more.
They know a little more than everybody else.
TLV,
Of course.
for instance, and then E. Krishna here.
Yes.
They are all there. And I also found very recently that the Academy had an editorial opinion. Sometimes it disagreed with the presenter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when a presenter's paper is reported, underneath there are a series of footnotes saying that, as you know, this has already been done by the Music Academy, and this is our view. So they were basically
That's
not
fascinating.
agreeing with the...
That's so enriching, like, because I think somewhere we have lost that ability to have that debate or even publish it and say, I disagree with you, because it's such an enriching way of learning.
So K. Vasudeva Shastri, for instance, of the Saraswati Mahal,
of course.
When he makes his presentations here on Raganga Ragas, Melakartas, and about Shahaji and Tyagaraja Dikshita later, Raghavan very boldly puts a footnote at the bottom in several pages saying, Academy has already dealt with this topic, this is where you need to see it. Then this future paper is coming out, so this is where you will be able to get further answers on this one. So he was on top of the ball when it came to research. I mean, Raghavan, what a mind, what a brain.
And when you read some of the articles that are written in the journal, I mean, they are very combative, they are frontal, and also the Academy did not shy away from these debates. I think that's very, very important. That it saw itself as an intellectual warehouse where people could come and say what they felt and debate it and argue it. And I think that's so, I mean, it's refreshing actually.
There is a lecture demonstration by C.S. Iyer who
Yes.
always irritated
Yes, yeah.
people. So in the comment it says that the argument got so heated that the members present were requested to submit their opinions in writing. So obviously they were so angry,
yeah.
that there would have been violence on the spot. So they were asked to present it in writing, and the Mudikondan Venkataramayar as president, he then collects the whole thing. But we don't know what those opinions were and what happened.
That's not available.
But the topic is adjourned for the day without any conclusion.
Yeah.
And then the sheer widespread nature of subjects that the academy has dealt with.
That's very important.
So
Yes.
Gregorian chants,
Yes.
for instance, African music. For instance, Shyamala Balakrishnan talking about the impact of folk music
Correct.
on Carnatic music, gypsy music on Nadodi பாடல்களுக்கும் Karnataka சங்கீதத்துக்கும் இருக்கிற தொடர்பு, etc., etc. So that kind of, they were willing to look at everything.
Absolutely.
And everything.
And the rigor also that was, I mean, even now I know that if anybody is going to present the paper of the academy, they think more than twice.
Not always, but mostly they do.
Mostly. Okay, let's keep it that way. But and also now, I'm not talking about the library, but I'm also talking about my memories of the arguments in the main hall when the morning sessions happened there. And you had all the experts committee people actually like almost like mafia around you. And you have to be like very careful. Even the greatest scholars like scared to use what word, and you will have people just shouting out things from there, not waiting for a microphone. I mean, but as a young person who is just like going around and these things really like thrilled you. That and you learned so much from those disagreements and the fact that you publish it and it's for record for people and this especially Ragalakshana discussions about which a lot has been written, a lot of scholars have worked in. I think it's every time you look at it, you get so many different little threads. On a lighter note, in one of the December sessions, the topic was Asaveri. I still remember. I finished here and I went to see Shamudi Mama. So he looked at me and said, "Nada patient nikanga." So I said, "Asaveri." So, I mean, that jokes apart, the fact that for 60 years you're still debating it is a very healthy thing, right?
And in an era when they didn't have recording, audio recording, see, after all, gramophone recording was limited by time. So I'm talking about the 40s. See, from the 50s, the spool tape slowly starts coming in. They managed to bring almost all of it on paper. So when you read it, you can visualize what they were trying to sing or what they would have performed at that time.
Absolutely.
So I think that is where they did a great job.
What about the audio archives of the concerts? What about that?
So there I can't say that we've covered ourselves in glory in the initial years particularly. See, we do know that from 56 at least we have had a tradition of recording something, but not all. And I'm sure All India Radio from the late 40s has been carrying snippets of the Music Academy and the Tamil Isai Sangam performances very regularly. So we do have records there as well. But in 56, there is a Maharajapuram Vishwanatha Iyer concert, which I think is more or less the first concert of which the Academy must have recorded. But thereafter, I think our security has been very porous in terms of our record keeping.
Yes.
And today, there are more concerts of the Academy uploaded on YouTube than we have.
So I have to tell you this story. In the late 80s, you could get the Academy concert the next day.
Yes.
And there were few people who would source it for you. And I was a mad TV Shankar Narayan fan.
So we were all.
Yeah. So I still remember, even if I attended the concert, did not attend the concert, I knew where I could get the tape in 24 hours. So I think many of us have accessed those illegal recordings within quotes.
But now, many have started to come back because we've been building up the archive. Ever since 2008, the listening archives have been in place. And Mr. Chari's collection was the first one, R.T. Chari's collection was the first one that came. Thereafter, Mr. G. Narasimhan of the Hindu, his collection came in. So gradually, the archive, Vinjamuri Varadaraja Iyengar's collection has come here. So like that, it started. Now, Sangeeta Kalanidhi, R. Vedavalli's recordings have all come thanks to her daughter and Sumati, who, as you know, is our secretary. So these have all come in, and gradually we are rebuilding the archive. And over the years, we realized that nobody is going to come here to listen. Now YouTube has and other platforms exist. So the question now, what we've done in the last 3 years is we've shifted our attention to curating our collection, weeding out all the errors that are there in terms of title, song lists, identifications. There are thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of errors.
I know, I can imagine. Yeah.
So there's a whole team led by Savita Narasimhan which is working on that,
Oh,
and they've
excellent.
completed it.
Excellent.
So they've weeded out everything in Hindustani, in Carnatic, and in classical dance. That's what they are working on now, in fact, classical dance. And we are also building our own platform where we can present these for people. The question we now have come to is, how do we do it keeping in mind the interest of the artists?
Yeah, that is
So
that
copyright is what we have not yet cracked, and we don't have an answer. But at the same time, we are in parallel building on that platform, and probably it will take us 1 more year before a complete curated collection of the Music Academy will be available for researchers in-house. That anyway, even now it exists. But for making it available for people outside, unless and until we come to a satisfactory conclusion with the artist community.
Absolutely,
on
because it's a
copyright, we
delicate
won't
issue
do
without
it.
doubt. It's a delicate issue. I mean, I would also suggest, when you say curated collection, I think it's also important if you can have guided listening.
That's what we have.
It'll be great. We can.
So every raga has got notes
Exactly.
provided.
That'll
Every
be
composer
fabulous.
has got notes. Like for instance, Patnam Subramania Iyer, meaning it will tell you what he did, and then if a song has been, the lyric is by someone and the tune is by someone else, we have put that also in place. So Ambujam Krishna, for instance, is identified as a lyricist.
You should try and bring a column also in your souvenir.
That I think we need to.
You should do. That has Tunesmith or
Exactly.
something,
Somewhere we must have it.
we can't continue just
saying that they also did
exactly, whose composition Bhartiyar? No, Bhartiyar
Only the lyrics.
It's only the lyrics. I think that you should bring a column there.
I think we need
that
to.
way, that also the posterity, you record these things. We forget otherwise who tuned Chinnanjirkili or who tuned so many of these songs, or for example, Turan's compositions or anybody else.
Yeah.
We don't know after a point of time.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately,
It just gets lost.
It gets lost. Yeah, that'll be great if you can also bring that onto the souvenir. That'll be fabulous if you can. Anyway, thank you very much, Sriram, for this conversation.
Thank you.
I hope more people use this library. You can't during the music season. Just a warning. Those 15 days the library is closed. But after that, please do. And like Sriram said, it's about music and much, much, much more.
And our librarian Jagdish and Satya, who's our assistant librarian, they're always here to welcome people and assist them with whatever information they want.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sriram. Thank you.